Hi there, welcome back to Hermitage Road. It's Pete here. What I'm showing you is the latest locomotive I've got, which is a Great Western pannier tank. But I bought this one, it is by Accurascale, by the way, nearly didn't say that. I bought this one in a fairly unusual livery of Great Western green, but with British Railways written on the sides of the tanks. There weren't too many like this, but they did survive quite a few years in this livery, and it's a sort of best of both worlds, really. It captures the looks of the Great Western, but without actually being Great Western. You can run it in BR days. Now, the story of the Great Western pannier tanks is quite interesting. In 1929, Charles Collett designed these, the 57XX, but they had previously had mostly saddle tanks, but there were some earlier pannier tanks. But they decided that to make their crews' jobs easier in oiling the inside motion, they'd use the pannier tanks, which you can basically crawl underneath a bit by lying over the footplate to oil. If you use a side tank, it's harder, and you almost certainly need a pit to go down and do the lubricating. So that was probably their thinking. They were actually quite a powerful locomotive. I believe they were classed as 3F by BR. And also, there was an awful lot of these, 863. And they survived intact till about 1956, which is quite late. And they only really went because the 08s were being introduced, which were obviously easier for the drivers, the crew, and the maintenance people. Now this one is the Accurascale sound one. I'm just going to move it forward a bit. They've done a very good job of this. I don't know who did their sound, whether they recorded it themselves or whether they used one of the aftermarket suppliers to do the sound files. Who knows, but it's certainly well done. And seeing it's only got two small cube-type speakers in here, I think the sound's very good. Now, I'm not going to demonstrate every single function on this, because it might get boring and other people have done it already. But just to toot on the whistle, they've got the usual things: coal shoveling, water filling, safety valves, all this sort of sound. And the running on it is absolutely superb. Now, I'm going to put this on speed step 1. And you can see that it will run consistently and well on that speed step. Which is very good. Now I'm going to carry on running it back a bit so that I can... Let's move it out of view. And I'll bring over the Bachmann one. There's the Bachmann one, which is in a weathered black. It differs from the Accurascale. On this one, it has a top feed just behind the chimney, which also means there's more associated pipework on the top of the water tanks and the boiler. They were various sort of types of 57XX. Some had top feeds, some didn't, but none of them were ever auto fitted. They were always a general purpose engine. They weren't for auto coaches. And there was a batch that was built with only steam brakes on them. Now these were for shunting only. Also, they produced some condensing tanks with the condensing gear for use on the Metropolitan Railway lines in London, in the tunnels. Obviously to keep the steam down, otherwise you wouldn't be able to see anything. Nobody I know has produced a model of this in ready-to-run form. I believe there were kit form ones. It might be an interesting locomotive, but there weren't very many, so it's probably not worth the manufactured tooling up for it. Now, the comparison, I think, between the two is interesting. The Bachmann one is a very good model for its time. It's getting on for 20 years old since they did this tooling, and it does run very well. It almost as good as the Accurascale, but of course it hasn't got stay-alive capacitors in it, so it's possibly not quite so good over points, which is a bit unfortunate, but that's how it is. You could put your own sound and stay-alives in there if you wanted to. Now, Accurascale have produced a custom crew to go in there, painted out and in poses to actually suit the locomotive, so that the fireman's hanging out the windows and the driver's positioned over by the regulator. They're not cheap, but you get what you pay for, to be honest. I think now it's coming back into view again. I'm going to show it to you, hold it in front of the camera as soon as I can stop it. Now, the pannier tanks were very common on the Great Western, and there were many different types, from the small 1600 class, which was effectively a scaled down 57XX and used on lightly laid branch lines. Also, you had some auto fitted ones, which were the 5400 and the 6400. And there was a 7400, which is the same as the 64 but without auto gear. They served the Great Western well, and I don't think there are many locomotives on the Western region or Great Western that are more sort of an example of what a typical Great Western engine is. Of course, one of these was Duck in the Thomas the Tank Engine stories, and that was a very popular locomotive. I think that's about all I've got to say on the 57XXs, but I recently got quite a few more subscribers, in part thanks to Rob and Grace over at RGJ Trains, who featured my channel, which was very nice of them. It's really helped. So I'd like to welcome all those new subscribers to the channel, and hopefully you will find my videos interesting. You know, I'm doing the best I can, but sometimes health issues get in the way a bit. But so I'd like you all, anybody who's watching this, to subscribe. It doesn't cost anything to subscribe, it really helps the channel. To share, to comment, and to like. And thank you very much, and good night from Hermitage Road.